Hard breaching operators are the foundation for any attacking lineup, and without them, attacking would be nearly impossible. Seeing how important these operators are, you probably want to know which one is the strongest for the job. So, in today's video, I'll be going through the 3 hard breaching operators, those being Thermite, Hibanna, Maverick, and Ace, and rating them out of 10 in 4 key categories. The categories are gadget, loadout, secondary gadget, and versatility, same as usual. Then at the end of the video, I'll be adding up their scores to come to a verdict. So make for sure you watch until the end to find out who is the best hard breaching operator. Though the first operator we're going to be discussing is Thermite, since he released to the game first, and his gadget is the exothermic charge. These are breaching charges that Thermite can place on a reinforced surface that when detonated will blow a massive hole into that surface. These Thermite charges can be used for opening hatches or walls, but they're typically stronger for getting walls open because of the fact that they make such big holes. However, since Thermite has to walk up to a wall to place his exothermic charges down, he's left vulnerable for a significant period while doing so, which can open him up to getting killed while doing it. Also, his exothermic charges detonate pretty slowly, which opens him up to getting countered by operators like Tuberal, Bandit Tricking, and Cade. So for those reasons, I'm going to be giving his gadget a 6 out of 10. It's really solid for opening up massive holes in outside walls, but if you're looking for a gadget to help you in any other situation, you'd probably be better off with picking someone else. Now moving on to Thermite's loadout, this is actually a pretty solid point for him. Thermite has access to the 5.56 assault rifle and the M1014 shotgun as his 2 primary options, and the 5.7 USG and M45 Musoc as his 2 secondary weapons. The 5.56 assault rifle is a high damage, low fire rate machine that has a really low recoil, which allows him to hit shots from a distance extremely easily. And since Thermite spends a lot of his time outside of a breach, far away from the enemies, this weapon is actually the perfect tool for the job. However, the M1014 shotgun, since it's a shotgun on attack, isn't really that useful. You're rarely going to find yourself picking this in most scenarios. And the same thing goes for the 5.7 USG, which has really low damage, but a massive capacity. You really don't need that much of a capacity in a pistol, and you'd be better off picking the M45 Musoc in most situations, since the M45 Musoc has such a high damage output. Overall, Thermite's loadout is still really solid, which is why I'm going to be giving him an 8 out of 10. He has a good primary weapon option and a good secondary as well. Now moving on to his secondary gadgets, Thermite has access to smoke grenades and flashbangs. Both of these secondary gadgets are extremely strong for Thermite's use case. Flashbangs can help him to burn ADSs or to help him push into the bomb site, and then smoke grenades are good for covering a plant late in the round or for trying to execute onto the site. Overall, a solid 9 out of 10 secondary gadget category. The only thing that can make Thermite even better in this category is access to secondary EMPs. Now moving on to versatility, this is an area where Thermite is lacking. Thermite is extremely map and site dependent, since he has to get up close to a wall to be able to place his breaching charges down, which makes it hard for him to get walls open without dying in the process, especially if he's trying to open an interior wall. Additionally, because of his Thermite charges being so slow to deploy and to detonate, there are a lot of operators that can easily counter him, like Tuberal and Bandit Tricking, as I mentioned earlier. Thermite does have a good loadout and solid secondary gadgets at his disposal, but none of that makes up for the huge flaws in his gadget, which hurts his versatility on most maps. So he's going to be getting a 6 out of 10. This leaves him with an overall score of 29 out of 40. Now, the next operator we're going to be discussing after Thermite is Hibanna, because once again, she's one of the older hard breaching operators added to Siege. Hibanna's gadget is her X-Kairos. These are pellets that are launched from Hibanna's launcher that when detonated will make a small hole in a reinforced or soft surface. And the thing that makes Hibanna so unique is that she has the benefit of different firing modes on her launcher, which allows her to better manage her resources by switching between shooting 2 pellets, 4 pellets, or 6 pellets. On 4 pellet mode, her gadget is extremely useful for open reinforced hatches because of the fact that a reinforced hatch only requires 4 of those pellets. On the 2 pellet firing mode, she's strong for opening soft hatches or for dealing with castle barricades. And then the 6 pellet mode is only really used to help you get walls open. Which, speaking of opening walls, this is one of the huge downsides of Hibanna's X-Kairos. Because of her pellets being so small, it's difficult for her to open big holes in a wall. So if part of your attack requires you to open a wall, you'd probably be better off picking other operators on this list. Additionally, since her detonation takes forever, she's also subject to a lot of the same counters that Thermite was, which is a Tuberal or a player that's really good at bandit tricking. So because of that, I'm going to be giving Hibanna's gadget a 7 out of 10. It is stronger at opening hatches than Thermite's exothermic charges are at opening walls, but because her X-Kairos sucks so much for opening walls, I had to give her a 7 out of 10 here. Now moving on past her gadget, we can now discuss her loadout. Hibanna has access to the Type 89 assault rifle and the Supernova as her 2 primary options, and then she has access to the Bearing 9 machine machine pistol and the P229 handgun as her 2 secondaries. The Type 89 is a high fire rate, moderate damage assault rifle that has the one downside of having a low magazine capacity. But what makes up for that low magazine capacity is her having access to the Bearing 9 machine pistol, because if she runs out of ammo in her primary, she can switch over to that, which also has a high fire rate and a decent damage as well. The only parts about Hibanna's kit that are lacking is the fact that she has the Supernova shotgun as her other primary option, which, as I mentioned before with Thermite, shotguns are not that useful on the attack, and that the P229 handgun is pretty much useless since the Bearing 9 just outclasses it in every way. But overall, since the Type 89 assault rifle and the Bearing 9 combo is so strong, I'm going to be giving her a 10 out of 10 in the loadout category. And after discussing her loadout, we can now discuss her secondary gadgets. This is another place where Hibanna is pretty strong. She has access to flashbangs and breaching charges. Flashbangs are super useful on Hibanna because it can allow her to force defenders into bad gunfights, and it can help her to execute onto a position. Plus, since her X-Kairos pellets can be caught by Wamai Magnus or Jaeger ADSs, she can use her flashbangs to burn those gadgets, so that way she can get her X-Kairos into a room. However, breaching charges are kind of lackluster in the current meta because all they really do is allow you to open a soft surface, which in most cases you'd be better off just picking other operators to do that. So for that reason, I'm going to be giving her an 8 out of 10 and not a perfect score. But the flashbangs are still extremely strong for her. And for the final category, versatility, Hibanna suffers here just like Thermite did. However, to a slightly lesser degree. Hibanna is heavily sight dependent because of the fact that her pellets are mainly only used for opening hatches. And she also has multiple big counters just like Thermite, those being Tuberau and Cade. However, she has an amazing weapon loadout and solid secondary gadgets that complement her gadget. So because of that, I'm going to be giving her a 7 out of 10 in the versatility category. She has less counters than Thermite, and her overall kit is a lot better than Thermite's. And after wrapping up Hibanna, it is now time to discuss Maverick. Maverick's gadget is the blowtorch. This allows Maverick to manually burn holes through a reinforcement, which can allow him to make peek holes into a room. It can allow him to make crouch holes into a wall, or he can just straight up open the whole wall himself by burning the top and the bottom of the wall. He can also use this technique to open up hatches as well, which means he's technically the first operator that is effective at both opening hatches and getting walls. However, Maverick's blowtorch does have a few huge downsides. Firstly, it leaves him extremely vulnerable while he's using it since he can't have a gun out. Secondly, it takes forever for him to open a surface. This is because Maverick has to do the job manually. He has to manually burn through every segment of the wall he wants to get open. And so because of that, it can end up sacrificing his team a lot of time. So I'm going to be giving him a 6 out of 10 in the gadget category. It's a solid gadget for avoiding counters like Cade and Bandit, but if the enemy team doesn't bring those counters, then you'd be better off with a different gadget. Now moving past Maverick's gadget, we can now discuss his loadout. Maverick comes equipped with the M4 assault rifle and the AR-15 50 cal DMR as his 2 primary options, and then the 1911 handgun as his only secondary. The M4 assault rifle is statistically one of the best assault rifles in the game. It has a solid damage and a really good fire rate, and the AR-15 DMR is pretty solid as well with decent damage and a decent capacity, and the 1911 is just statistically a pretty solid secondary. Overall, he's going to be getting a 10 out of 10 in the loadout category, and I don't think you can argue against that. Now, whenever I discuss secondary gadgets in one of these videos, I always point out that flashbangs, frag grenades, and smoke grenades are some of the best options an attacker can have, and while Maverick has 2 out of these 3 options. Currently, at the time of recording, Maverick has access to flashbangs, claymores, and smoke grenades. Flashbangs are strong for reasons I've discussed multiple times throughout this video. Claymores are useful because Maverick can use them in combination with his blowtorch to pick up free kills on defenders on the other side of a reinforced wall, and smoke grenades are strong on Maverick for the same reasons they're strong on Thermite. They allow him to execute onto the site and potentially go for a plant. Overall, Maverick just has really solid secondary gadgets that mesh well with his kit, so I'm going to be giving him a 9 out of 10. The only thing that can make him better is getting frag grenades instead of claymores back, so that way he can open up walls on his own. However, for the final category, versatility, Maverick starts to see some flaws once again. The reasons for this is because of the stuff I discussed when talking about his gadget. He suffers from taking a lot of time to get any sort of surface open, and you also die with Maverick extremely often while trying to breach walls because defenders can just peek through the holes you're making and shoot you while you're doing it. However, Maverick does have some things going for him compared to other hard breachers in this video. First of all, unlike Hibanna and Thermite, he's not map dependent because his blowtorch can be used on pretty much any sort of reinforced surface effectively. Also, Maverick has a really well-rounded kit with some of the best weapons in this video, and his secondary gadgets are really strong as well. But considering that his gadget still suffers from a lot of issues, I think I have to give him a 6 out of 10 in the versatility category. If I gave him any higher, it would be unfair to the other operators in this list, which that's going to leave him with an overall score of 31 out of 40. After Maverick, we now have the final hard breacher in the game currently, Ace. Ace's gadget is his Selma charges. These are hard breaches that can be thrown from a distance, and that when attached to a surface, they will expand and start exploding holes into that reinforced surface. This makes Ace extremely strong for opening holes in a wall quickly because of the fact that his gadget detonates so fast. Also, he has the added benefit of being able to open a wall from a distance, which operators like Maverick and Thermite suffer from not being able to do. Also, since Ace's Selma charges detonate so quickly, he can stop operators like Bandit from tricking his Ace charges off of a wall. And on top of all of that, he can also use his Selma charges to open other surfaces like barricades, castle barricades, and he can even use them to destroy deployable shields. Overall, Ace just has the undisputed best gadget in the game, and so because of that, I'm going to be giving him a 10 out of 10. Now, just like with his gadget, Ace's loadout is absolutely killer. He has access to the AK-12 assault rifle, one of the strongest guns in the game, with pretty solid recoil, good damage, and a solid fire rate to go along with it. To go along with that, he gets the P9 handgun as his only secondary option. But he does have one bad part about his loadout, which is the fact that his other primary option is the M1014 shotgun, which I've discussed with pretty much every other hard breacher as being a bad thing for an attacker. But since Ace has such a good loadout outside of that, I think I have to give him a 10 out of 10 in the category. However, in the secondary gadget category, where this is the first place where Ace starts to suffer. He only has access to breaching charges, which I've discussed multiple times as being really lackluster, and claymores. Now, claymores are strong on Maverick because he can use them in combination with his gadget. However, claymores on Ace are basically worthless. The claymores are extremely obvious, and they're only really useful for stopping enemies from running out because of this. So I'm going to be giving him a 6 out of 10 in the secondary gadget category. It could be worse, but it's definitely not good. And it is now time to discuss the final category, which is versatility. And this is another area where Ace excels tremendously. Ace is not map dependent, which is good for him. He can open breaches quickly and safely. He has amazing weapons in his kit, and he doesn't suffer from things like bandit tricking like other operators would. However, he does suffer from a poor secondary gadget selection and also not being able to open hatches that effectively. But because of how strong he is at opening walls, I have to give him a 10 out of 10 in the versatility category. Because if you ever need a reinforced wall open in pretty much any scenario, Ace is going to be your guy. This leaves him with an overall score of 36 out of 40. Pretty damn close to a perfect score. And it is now time to answer the question you clicked on this video for. Who is the best hard breaching operator? And with the scores tallied up, Ace is the clear winner with a score of 36 out of 40, over 4 points ahead of the operator in the second place. As always, this video is strictly my opinion, and if you disagree, feel free to leave your opinions in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, I make Siege content just like this twice a week, so go subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter if you don't want to miss the next upload. If you want to watch another video just like this one, a video will be popping up on your screen right now that I'm sure you all enjoy. I'll see you next time, friends, and peace.